Hello, everyone. We are live with LabOPEX Live. And if you're coming on, just tell us where you're coming in from. Just log on, let us know who you are, where you're coming in from. If you're a medical lab professional, let us know. Just log on, let us know who you are, where you're coming in from. If you're a medical lab professional, let us know. Log on, let us know who you are, where you're coming in from. If you're a medical lab professional, let us know. Log on, let us know who you are, where you're coming in from. Okay. Just let us know where you're coming in from. So before, what we're going to do while you're coming in, we're just going to give you a quick, I'm going to just go around. So we have Tywauana Wilson and Stephanie Whitehead with myself, Lona Small. We are all co-hosts of eLABorate Topics podcast. And we're coming on today to talk about how we're using podcasts to bring visibility to the medical lab professional. And we have Anthony from Stores Draft, Virginia. Let us know where you're coming in from. So before we start, we're just gonna give you some fun facts about who we are. I don't know, for me, it may not be fun, but we're gonna start with Stephanie.
Hi, hope everybody can hear me okay. My name is Stephanie Whitehead. I live in San Antonio, Texas. I work at the University Health as the Executive Director of Pathology. A fun fact about myself, and I was telling the ladies, I don't know if it's fun, but it is a fact. Right before COVID, in 2019, I got on this health kick and I was able to lose a significant amount of weight just through doing CrossFit and eating right. And when you're going to the gym consistently, you just start to develop gym friends. And so my gym friends were a little bit younger than me and a little bit more overzealous than me, but they talked me into doing the entire Spartan series in 2019. So in 2019, I completed the Spartan sprint, which if you know about Spartan, then you know it's 3 miles and somewhere in the teens number of obstacles, crawling through mud, doing pull-ups, jumping over walls and things like that. And then that summer we did the Spartan Super, which was 8 or 9 miles, and in the 20s number of obstacles. And then that fall we did the Spartan Beast, which was a little bit over 13 miles and 30 obstacles. And people would ask me, what is your goal? And I would say, my goal is not to die and to come back to my family safely, because I don't have all my affairs in order yet. I'm still working on that. But most people who know me personally know I'm a person who likes to keep, my hair looking nice and my nails done. And so it was just very odd to see photos of me, looking dirty and crawling through mud. And so, but it was very fun. And so I enjoyed it, and I have the pictures to show, but I will not be doing that again.
Wow. I did not know that about you, Stephanie. So that was fun facts for everyone. So for anybody else that's coming in, just let us know who you are and where you're coming in from. And if you're in the medical lab, let us know. So do you want me to go, Taiwana, or you want to go? Fun fact.
I can go. Mine is not as fun and interesting as Stephanie's, but my name is Tywauana Wilson, and I am in Cincinnati, Ohio. For those of you that don't know, I am a medical laboratory professional currently serving as the System Technical Director of Chemistry for CompuNet Clinical Laboratories in Dayton, Ohio. And I guess my fun or interesting fact is that I have jumped out of a plane before. So I like adventure, so I have done the whole parasailing, I have done zip lining, I have river tubed in Jamaica, but the highlight, I guess, of what I've had on my bucket list was actually jumping out of a perfectly good plane. And so my husband appeased me. He was like, okay. I said, we got to do this. And he was like, well, okay, it's not on my bucket list, but I will go with you. And so when we got in the plane, I said, well, you got to go first. Like I know it was my bucket list, but you need to go first. You need to jump first and make sure that it's okay. And at that time, we wasn't married. So, I mean, if things would have happened, he would have jumped first. But but we both jumped out of the plane. It was one of the most exhilarating experiences, having all the wind flow in my hair. I don't have to do it again. I mean, I would, but I don't have to. But it was a great experience. And I do have the video to prove it. So I guess that would be my fun, interesting fact for me.
Oh, wow. I really don't know you guys. Now I don't know you. Well, now maybe I should have gone first. Now, what I would say, I don't know. So for me, I'm not one of those adventurous people. However, I was kind of a tomboy growing up. So for me, I can climb trees.
Oh. That's interesting.
I climbed a mango tree and I went on the limb and fell off and broke my wrist.
Oh my goodness.
Now I can laugh. And they heard a thump and thought, wow, something fell off the tree, and nobody came to my rescue. So I was lying there for a while until eventually I could get up and move. So I'm not that adventurous, although when I listened to Taiwana jumping out of a plane, I thought I could be good at climbing a tree, but I fell off the tree.
I think it takes skill to climb a tree. I don't know if I could climb a tree. I don't know where you start. Where do you start when you climb a tree?
Okay, let's move. We have Justin here. Hello from New Jersey. Hey, Justin.
Hey, Justin.
Nice having you. And we have James. James is saying hello, everyone.
Hi, James.
Log in. Okay. All right. So
I have a podcast coming up this week.
I know.
Yeah.
So did you were you on LinkedIn? Maybe because on LinkedIn it should just go live. So maybe I'm not sure. So nice having you, James. So we're gonna start. Hopefully, I hope others are not having any challenges, because it should go live. If you're on the page, it should give you an alert that we're going live. Or you would have to look up to find where look up where the post was that it went live. So what we're going to start out with, just saying, how did we meet? How did we meet? Who want to start?
I met. So I think another fun fact for the people logging in is the fact that we've never actually met in person. The three of us have been doing the eLABorate podcast. We're coming up on a 1-year anniversary. And I would say more than that we've been working on the podcast. So probably a year of us collaborating together, a couple of weeks a month. And we've never actually been in person. So we have to make that on our bucket list. We have to make it a goal for all three of us to actually sit in the same city, in the same state, in the same room one day.
Sitting going on.
But I actually was acquainted first with Taiwana through a mutual laboratory friend of ours. And really, she just connected us as two laboratory leaders in the medical profession field. She acquainted me to Taiwana's other podcast, Leadership Tidbits. And I reached out to Taiwana one day. Really, I reached out to Taiwana trying to be a guest on her podcast. And, when we were going through all of the COVID very early into the pandemic, and as, our lab was like other labs, just trying to figure out what were the safety precautions, how to do the testing, how to get the supplies, did we need more staff, all of those things, how to keep our staff safe, how to keep ourselves safe. I reached out to her and I said, I've learned so many things just going through this process, and I think it would be great to share. And Taiwana threw out, well, I had actually been throwing around the idea of our own lab podcast, and then she mentioned that she had been working on that with you. And so, Taiwana, you might come up talk about how you came up with the idea. I think we all three came up with the name, but the idea originated with you. So,
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because
You want me to say how I met Taiwana, because she seems to be the center of everything.
Yes, she's the epicenter. She's a mothership.
Right. So I was posting on LinkedIn for a while, and I noticed this lady, she was posting leadership stuff, her podcast, most of her episode, it was like a leadership podcast that she had. And I was thinking of a podcast, but I was like going through, taking like forever. And, to do more in terms of, posting on leadership and everything, because I was focused on lab leadership. And I decided, let me pick up the phone and call this lady because I haven't seen anybody else in the lab field that was, out there promoting whatever they were doing. And I realized she had like an entrepreneurial spirit to her. And I did also. And so I reached out to her and said, can we chat? So we chatted for a while. She told me about what she was doing. I told her about what I was doing and told her about my dream to have a podcast. And she was like, go ahead, do it. And then we hadn't spoken for a while, and then, we connected again, and I was, talking to her about some ideas in lab leadership. And then she reached out to me about an idea about a lab podcast along with others. And Taiwana, she's like the center of everything, so she can tell how that came about.
That's funny. And you all are right. I mean, people wouldn't believe it, but yes, we have never met. So we span 3 states. So we come from Ohio, Texas, and Maryland is where we are broadcasting from. And I can't take credit for having the whole idea. I mean, they definitely had the idea. I'm like, listen, well, we should just do this. And so they was like, okay, well, I'm in. And sometimes that's all it takes is for somebody to say, I'm in, let's try it. And I have to tell you, this is funny. So our very first show, we had, practice. It was our In the Lab is what that show was called. And so we did the show and we had our idea and we recorded it. And then afterwards, Stephanie and Lona was like, yeah, I don't know if that was good. I don't know if the people are good, if it's going to resonate with the people. Like, are we doing the right thing? Like, I just don't know. And so I'm like, it'll be fine. We just have to, put it out there and, see where we go. And, it's just gotten better and better and better. And next week will be our 50th episode. Yeah, milestone. So, wow. So think about it. So week after week, and we will be approaching our 1-year anniversary of the show at the beginning of May. And when we first did the show, it was before even ASCP had started their show. And so we were like innovators in this space, and our show was different from the other societies podcasts, and their shows are awesome. They're great. Our show we have a different audience. We bring you people that you would have never probably gotten exposed to. I listen week after week, and all of these awesome guests that we have had, I'm like, yeah, I probably would have never met her, or I would have never met him. And I just think our show is just a little bit different because we bring that practical. Like, we bring that leadership, we bring that technical, we bring our expertise. We're not perfect, and we're not, trying to act like we are, but I think we bring that it's okay to be real into the laboratory. I think that's what make our show pretty cool and pretty dynamic. So I would definitely say, reach out to your peers in the industry, and you don't have to really know each other to do something great. I feel like we're better together. So I love you all, and I'm so happy to be on this show with my sister scientists, and you all have been awesome. I really, really, really enjoyed working with you all.
And your husband say
Hey, honey.
You're not too late. We're kind of like, like an introduction. I'm sure you caught the part about how we met. So,
hi, Christina.
We have
so Christina too, another guest from the show.
She has been.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about some of the topics. Angela said she just shared this in her group. So Angela has a Facebook group for lab leaders.
Oh, cool.
And she shared the live.
Why aren't we in a group?
Right.
I don't know, Stephanie.
Angela invited to the group.
Right.
I know this or what? I know what's going on. Angela is going to be on the LabOPEX live also. Angela is a lab director in West Virginia. And of course, if James was on one of the shows.
Yeah, Jim will be the 50th episode. Congratulations, Jim.
Okay. All right. So in terms of the shows, was that important to you to do a podcast, a lab podcast? Why was that important?
Well, I think it's important to bring the information to the teams that are out in our laboratories. Of course, you can go get information from, the professional societies, but podcasting is the way to go. Podcasting is where people are listening. So we have to bring the message where people are. And so one of the things that I saw Angela said, who's our target market? Is it the lab leaders or is it the frontline staff? Well, it's both, because we have topics that are relatable to both, especially those who are transitioning from frontline staff to manager. And so, I think it was important to bring our message in a format that people could hear it and listen to it on the go, listen to it when you're working out, listen to it wherever you are. I think that was important, and that visibility, because people, let's face it, before the pandemic, people didn't know anything about the lab, and it's still questionable if they know anything still about the laboratory and what we do. And I think it's important for them to see faces like ours that's in the laboratory, that's working, that's actually helping to save lives every day. So I think that's why it was important for us to have this message, because again, let's face it, some of our peers are not connected with the professional societies. So that's a whole market that we're missing, that, if we didn't have this show, they would be out of the loop with some of the things that are happening. So we are touching people that may not be with ASCP or ASCLS or CLMA or any of the other societies. So I think that's why this podcast was important for us to put on.
Yeah, I agree with Taiwana. Like we said before, when we started our podcast, there were only a few laboratory focused podcasts in our main, professional organization. ASCP had not even started their podcast yet. And so to me, what I've learned in my laboratory especially is there is such a need for employees, for candidates, for people to fill positions, that you do end up sometimes picking the best tech and putting them in positions, sometimes a little bit prematurely, sometimes before they're ready. And they don't always have all the tools of the soft skills that they need to be effective in their position. They got all the technical skills in the world. And so it was important for me to have a platform where I could continuously share the things that I've learned along the way. Like we say, we're not perfect. I think that comes across in our messaging, that we're not perfect, that we're sharing and we're developing best practices with the audience as they listen in and as they tune in. And I think some of the episodes have been really fun. I've interviewed nurses and we've talked about intellectual capital Some of the viewers, today I've interviewed Christina, and I had a great conversation about being young laboratory leaders, and how it was difficult for us being promoted young and having people reporting to us that were much older than us and have more experience than us, and how we combated that and got them to follow us as leaders. But we just had an episode, I called it Drive Through HR. And these were real situations that were going on with different leaders and, people on social media at work, and, people who had friends that, were in the workplace and was causing conflict. And so, we don't have the right answers, but we could all share on how we are combating these things and how we're working together in this workforce. And so I think it's just been important to be visible and to work with our peers to get a message out there.
Yeah, great. And just a few things to add. For me, I was using social media to put small messages out, and I thought that having a podcast would be an opportunity to have conversations, to expand on some of the things that we want to talk about, to explore. I know a lot of times the messages that go out to medical lab professionals are usually like academic and scientific, and we have a lot of those. But if we could look for opportunity to build our professional in a more holistic way, some of the challenges, like what we say about in our introduction, to help you to succeed both inside and outside the lab, not just technically, but some of the challenges that you weren't taught in school, leadership skills, some people would call it soft skills, but even opportunities when it comes to growth, professional growth, like what do I do next? So having a diversity of different guests coming on and talking about, we have different experts talking about opportunities, say, for instance, in process improvement, or a director coming on and talking about her experience, or just seeing, like Stephanie see people who have been where you are, or just a little bit beyond where you are, so that you can see that I can do that too. So we wanted to be like, talk about something else that everybody else wasn't talking about that was needed. And so hopefully we are succeeding in that. So at least, you can get a lot of diversity of information.
And to me, let's face it, a lot of times you don't get a chance to talk to your director or your supervisor outside of work in a personable way. Many leaders would shy away from that, and that makes perfect sense. I would actually promote that, because you don't want to blur those lines between professional and personal. But you don't really get to a lot of times see your laboratory leaders be people. Even if you get this information from a professional organization, it's very strategic. It's usually timed once a year during a conference, and it's really a snippet. It's a snapshot. It's a 1 hour session. And what we're bringing to you is weekly. And we're asking you, the listener, what would you like to hear? What would you like to be a part of? Would you like to join us? And would you like to be a part of a conversation? So I think it's a little bit more interactive too.
Right. Okay, so from the audience, Angela was sharing her link. Look her up. Her leadership group we were talking about. Wow, James just responded. He did, and
board members have to buy into podcasts. Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I think the more we have these things, the more it becomes almost like second place. People are more getting used to podcasts, and the good thing about podcasts is that you can take it with you when you're driving to work, or when you're doing your chores, or so it's easier than sitting down watching a video or a presentation. So I think that's a great way to bring it to everyone.
And I think it's been a good opportunity for exposure for us and for our guests. So I've seen a lot of our guests that are doing big things since they've been on our show and give exposure, because let's face it, there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. And what we are doing here is we are giving people exposure that you don't have to do things the traditional way. Things have changed. I've been in the field for 17 years now, and things have changed since I got into the field. There's no, you don't come into the field, you don't have to go and work on third shift or second shift as a generalist and work your way up and pay your dues and go from generalist to maybe lead tech to maybe supervisor. You don't have to do that trajectory anymore. You can write the rules yourself. Like, I don't wait for ASCP, ASCLS, CLMA. I don't wait for any of them to direct my path of what I want to do. And so I know, some of it is getting out and changing your mindset. As laboratorians, sometimes we are, like, I go to a conference, I kind of sit back, I just listen, I don't really participate. And that's one of the things. You have to get out in other circles. You have to get out with other people, because there are some people that are really doing some big things. And I tell you, if it wasn't for getting in other circles outside of the laboratory that allowed me to take that information and bring it back, getting at this podcast, going to conferences, and not just lab conferences. So here's a little secret for all you laboratorians out there. Don't just invest in lab related technical expertise. I don't know if you listened to the podcast with Cedric LaFleur. He talked about it and he said, listen, you got that. We got more degrees, certifications, initials behind our name, and technically we're awesome. But when it comes to the people skills, then you wonder why your team isn't strong, and you've put people in management positions that they are not prepared to lead and cannot lead confidently. And so it's because they're not getting around other people and in other circles. So sometimes you have to get outside the mold. As laboratorians, we like to sit back. You have to get into situations where you can engage mastermind groups, where you can get and talk with other people and bounce ideas. I'm telling you, when I was first as a new supervisor, there was so much stuff I didn't know, but thank goodness to have mentors and be in groups where I can say, okay, I got this situation. How would you handle this? How should I do this? This trying to learn on the fly and suffering in silence in your management position is not it. And your people will leave you. We see it every day. So if I had anything to tell to the people out there, especially our lab people, and I am very passionate about this because I see so many people trying to do old strategies. They don't work. It's 2021. They do not work. So I see that, and I just want our lab people to get out, connect, network, meet somebody new, take a chance, do something different. Don't be traditional. Being traditional will get you left behind. So that's my 2 cents. I'll get off my
soapbox. Amen. We went to church. We went all the way to church.
Where's the collection plate?
Let the church and the choir say amen. I totally agree. I mean, and for the viewers, we are all mentors. And I always tell the people that come onto the podcast with me, look, I am not Gail. I'm not Oprah. We are not paying you. This is not paid yet. And so, I'm just me. I'm a person who, hit record for an hour and just started talking. This is me every day, no matter what time of day you find me. And so sometimes it's good and sometimes on point and sometimes it's not. We're all figuring it out. None of us have it all together. But if you need a mentor, all three of us are mentors. You can tell by Tywauana's sermon, we are all we are all very passionate about development and making sure that our teams are equipped and laboratory leaders are better than they were yesterday. Because when you're better, your team is better. And when your team is better, your results are better. Your doctors get what they need. Your patients are better. And so let's make each other, better. Let's stop being in our silos. Like Tywauana said, suffering in silence. That position is only going to buy you time. You get promoted to supervisor, manager, director. That title only buys you time. For a little bit of time, people will sit back and watch you to see what you can do. But you have to eventually earn their trust and respect and influence so you can lead them through the vision of the organization and that laboratory. And you need the tools to do that. So if you don't, we're here to help.
And that's one of the things we do is give you those practical tips. I was talking to a colleague today and a new manager for a team, and they said, what is one thing I can do? Get out of that office. Get out of your office and meet your people, connect with your people. If you sit in that office, I'm telling you, your team is going to be going astray. And you have to do it immediately. So as soon as you get into that role, you need to get out and start meeting the people. And if you get out and start meeting your team, they will tell you everything you need to know. That's another tip. I should be charging for these tips.
You should be charging. You should be charging. I hope y'all writing this down. I hope somebody's screenshotting, recording this. I want to giving free stuff. I want to giving free tidbits tonight. And be careful. When you're walking down the hall and you're going out and meeting your team, this is my one tidbit. Be aware of those people who avoid you. Those people that you look to make eye contact, they look away. They're looking down. Laboratory people, we're naturally introverted. Not the three of us, we're unicorns in this situation, but we're naturally introverted, maybe a little bit socially awkward, but be aware of those employees that aren't engaging with you, are looking away, intentionally avoiding you, and go up to them and be intentional about developing a relationship, striking a conversation, and connecting with those team members. Connect with your entire team. If you don't know how to do that, we got the tools to do that too. It's not easy. Everybody is different. You have to have a strategy for every person. Some people are more difficult than others, but it's worth the try.
Yeah, so we want to be role models in some of the things that we do, not necessarily what we say. So we're having our podcast, we're doing things like LinkedIn Live, and we're out there trying to be visible, but we don't want to be the only one. For us, it's always trying to empower others, to try to mentor others, to try to lead by example. And for me, I want to see a whole new outlook for medical professionals, and a great opportunity for us. I always talk about stepping up and stepping out. And one of my episode, I spoke on the perception or perceived value. And a lot of times perception come from people who are looking in, but sometimes we can make a difference in terms of perception and perceived value and how we conduct ourselves. How do we see ourselves or the value of what we do? Are we the ones who are saying, I'm just a med tech? Like I know Stephanie did a podcast on I'm just a. And so just, one of my favorite podcasts that I did, which it probably could have been the one that they interviewed me, but it wasn't. It was one about perceived value and how we can actually look at ourselves and start developing ourselves individually. So once we start developing ourselves individually, we can develop collectively as a profession and start changing the perception of medical lab professionals. And so a lot of things that we're doing, we're actually setting that example, and we're hoping that others may come along with us. And we're willing to mentor, we're willing to coach, we're willing to do whatever it is. But I know that there are a lot of strong medical lab professionals that we're willing to collaborate with. We have a lot of people are going to come on this show, LabOPEX Live, and we're open with the podcast to always have guests. And so hopefully we'll see a whole different trend in medical lab professionals.
Absolutely. I think you're right, Lona. And it starts with each and every one of us. It starts with each of every one of us impacting our sphere of influence, doing what we can to be visible, whether that's out here talking about the profession to our young leaders, our elementary school students, our high school students, being a career ambassador, talking with the people that's in your network, making sure your family members know what you do. It just starts with us creating that visibility. I always hear scientists say, well, ASCP ain't doing this for us, or ASCLS isn't doing this, or CLMA isn't doing this, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's where it starts. You can't have somebody advocate for you louder than you're willing to advocate for yourself. And so what are you doing when you take a deep look and you put that mirror up in front of your face and you think about, why the medical lab profession is where it is? What are you doing to make a difference today? So start with that. And I think, if we all did whatever it is in our sphere of influence by raising the visibility, we would get so much further than sitting back waiting for a professional society to do that for us.
And I would remind you that those professional societies are made up of volunteers. And so if we not volunteering to be part of the solution and to raise to ASCP, AMT, ASCLS, what are the issues in each state, in each county, in each local area that we face so they can help us attack them, then they won't know. And so, we can't really talk about what ASCP and these professional organizations aren't doing if we're not involved in being part of the solution to help fix it with the organization. And so you have to, volunteering sounds like, just another task, but if you are that passionate about the problem, you can be that passionate about the solution. Thank you. Have a good night.
Amen. I think that you brought it home.
These were real encouragement. It may seem that, it's like maybe tough love, but because we love you and we love the profession and we know there's so much more that we can do, and it starts with us. And so we want you to, how can the people who are watching live catch the eLABorate Topic podcast? Maybe anybody want to jump on that? How can they get to listen to eLABorate Topic podcast?
Well, you can go to directimpactbroadcasting.com. That's directimpactbroadcasting.com, and you can catch all of our episodes there along with some other podcasts. You can also go to your favorite podcast platform, whether it is Apple, whether it's Google Play. You can catch us on YouTube, Direct Impact Broadcasting. Most times we are often sharing the episodes, but I would recommend that you go back and you listen to some of these episodes that we have done, because they're relatable, they're real, and they're practical. So I would definitely recommend that you go and catch some of these episodes, because some of the topics you could be dealing with or issues you could be dealing with, we probably talked about it. Ask Stephanie what she did when she had to coach somebody and let somebody go, and they didn't even know that they was let go. Check out that episode. That was quite hilarious, but
I'm
it
gonna
happens.
let you find that one. I'm gonna let you find that one. That was not my best management moment, and I have since been mentored and learned and come a long way. But I'm just gonna say this: if you fire somebody and they come back the next day, you didn't do it right. I learned that the hard way.
And it's good that we're relatable, and when you see that, you realize that it's something that you can do. And there's so many options, but if you want to be a leader, you have people who are in different leadership positions, you have guests in different leadership positions, so you can relate to different people at different levels.
And if you would like to be a guest on the show, please reach out to us. You can be a recurring guest. You can come on one time and say your spiel and jump off. All of us have several stories to tell on several different topics. Everybody has a lot that they can offer, and so we're not shy. Come on and help us out.
And you can go and fill out our interest form on the directimpactbroadcasting.com. There's a link for eLABorate Topics podcast guest, so you can fill that out so that we can kind of know what you want to talk about and get your picture, and that way we can create a nice little graphic for you. So we're definitely looking for guests. We'd love to have you.
Okay, so thanks everyone who logged in and participated and engaged. I hope that you learned something, but the goal of this is to be out there, be visible. And that's what eLABorate Topics is doing, creating visibility for medical lab professionals. Come on and listen. But if you have your own innovative way to do that, We encourage you to do that. We just want to bring visibility to medical lab professionals. So thank you so much, Taiwana. Thank you, Stephanie. And thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. You can still share this because it's going to be recorded. So if you have friends or other people in medical lab profession that you want to listen to this, you can share this out. So thanks so much for your engagement, your questions, your suggestion, your support. And we'll continue to watch. So every Thursday at this time, we have LabOPEX Live. Have a good night.
Good night.